Hello, everybody, and welcome back to an episode of Focus on Tomorrow. I'm Uriel Caballero, and Focus on Tomorrow is a nonprofit organization which is located in Chicago, Illinois. You can find us on the web at www.focus-on-tomorrow.org, or you can email us at info@focus-on-tomorrow.org. And today we are featuring Working Bikes, and with me is Maria Ackerman. How you doing?
I'm good.
I'm all right. Marie is the Communications Development Coordinator. And first question we want to know is, what is Working Bikes' mission?
So Working Bikes is an organization that works to rescue used bikes and then also donate them to people who lack reliable transportation.
Awesome. So my main question is, why bikes?
So, basically about 15 million bikes are thrown away in the U.S. every year.
Really?
And so we were founded by a gentleman named Lee Ravenscroft, and he noticed a truckload of bikes going to a scrapyard one day, and he sort of followed the truck, and he talked to the people there and purchased that truckload of bikes. Really? And this sort of started a pattern where he would do this every single week. Okay. And the reason he was buying all these bikes was he wanted to prevent them from being thrown away, and then instead donate them to people in developing countries where a lot of people lack transportation. And so this started in 1999, and today it's grown. We've been around for about 15 years now, and we donate about 6,000 bikes a year. And bikes are great because, as I said, there are something that is being thrown away, and there's something that can have a lot longer life if you put some repair into them and time, and there's something that's affordable, reliable, and helps people get to where they need to go.
Right. So, and you're into bikes, I'm guessing, right? Since you consider you work into bikes, right? Awesome. So my next question is, how do you reach out to people locally and ask for bike donations?
So basically we have events throughout the year. We have bike drives in the summer, it's really multiple bike drives every single week. Okay. In the winter, it slows down, especially in the December through February. There's barely anything going on, but in general, we have these bike drives almost every week, and they're hosted by churches, towns, Boy Scouts, Eagle Scouts, what else? Rotary clubs, and then there's also recycling organizations in the different counties surrounding Chicago.
Really? Tell me about that.
Well, so one of them is SCARES. It's an acronym for the solid waste. I can't remember the full name. Right. But they host events with different town governments throughout the year, and then people will bring like recyclables of all kinds, and bikes are one of those. Aside from these, though, we also get bikes just from individual people who will come to our warehouse. Like they'll come and ring the doorbell when we're not open. We'll have people bring them to our drop-off locations. We've got about 55 drop-off locations around the area, so people come there pretty often to drop them off. And then we also get them from colleges and the city of Chicago, from the Streets and Sanitation and CTA, people who left their bikes on the bus maybe, and they sat there for a certain number of days, and then they donated them to us. Awesome.
So you guys get support from all around the city for the bikes,
yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so considering your shop is a place where consumers can go buy and repair bikes, how does the shop play a role in your international program?
So we have this international program that I mentioned already. We donate bikes in shipments, about 500 bikes at a time, in a 40-foot shipping container. Okay. And so obviously there's the expense of the container itself and the shipping cost getting it overseas, but then there's also the expense of picking up those bikes and maintaining our building and our staff, that sort of thing. And so we have a bike store where we sell about 1 in 5 of the bikes that we collect. Really? And then by selling those bikes, we're basically funding the donations that we do abroad, and then also that we do locally in Chicago.
Okay. Awesome. So I understand that not all bikes can be donated because of the conditions of the cost of shipping, So tell me a little bit about the story of your salvage parts of some of these bikes that make bike machines.
Yeah. So most of the bikes that we get, we are able to donate or reuse through the store. but we do have a small portion of bikes that are just totally beyond repair. So if you have a bike that has a frame that's like totally cracked, or if you have, sometimes if it's just a bike that was already of really low value and you're missing enough parts from it that it's just not worth putting all of the energy into for repair, we can take off the components and we'll use those to do our repairs. So most of the repairs that we do to our bikes that we sell are done with used parts from the bikes we've gotten. And then we also make bike machines. So
talk to me about that.
Yeah, so bike machines, they are basically stationary bikes that people pedal, and then that generates electricity. So we've got one in Lee that I mentioned earlier. He's a retired engineer, and so he just basically builds these for fun in our basement. And he has got about, I would think, 10 plus bike machines that work right now. Most of them power a record player. We also have some that will pump water.
Really?
And then we also have some that you can attach anything you want to them. Basically, you can just charge your cell phone with it. You can make some light bulbs light up. You can make a smoothie, a blender go. So yeah.
Awesome. So not only people can use these for bikes for riding, but they could use those for all those type of resources that you were saying to charge your phone.
Yeah. So
crazy.
we use them just for fun. We take them to events, and then people, especially kids, will ride them, and it's fun. But we also donate bikes to people who will build those for actual use.
Right.
So some people, if you're living in a place that doesn't have much electricity, you can have electricity from that. Or if you're living in a place that's miles from water, but you have a well and it's, tiring to pull the water up, you could put this bike machine on it and then basically have it pumped up from that level below ground.
So how exactly do you guys come up with these type of ideas to make like a water pump with the bike?
I mean, that was definitely not something we came up with, but that,
Right.
Yeah, because there's multiple groups that do that.
Okay.
But Lee works in the basement, and he has a couple other volunteers who come and help him build, and they'll just create whatever they're thinking of. So most of the time we've got these Schwinn Exercycles. They're from the 1970s. They're orange colored. They're really heavy. You can't ship them. They're not something we can do something useful with, but we can make those into the bike machines. So that's the main type. But we also have if you have a tandem attachment, that little kids have where they can attach to their parents' bike.
Okay.
You can even make a bike machine with that because it's got the pedals, and you can just attach it to a chair, and then you can just have someone sit and pedal, and that'll do the same thing. Or Lee will make a rowing machine as well. So we have a couple that have a chain and handlebars, and you just pull it, and then that generates electricity too. So yeah.
That's great. So how many countries do you guys send your bike parts to?
So we send whole bikes mostly, and we send parts to supplement. We send them to about 20 countries. It fluctuates. So that's since we started, it's been over 20 countries total. But this year we've donated to about 4 or 5 countries. So Lesotho, Ghana, El Salvador, and Panama. I think those are the 4 so far this year. But mainly the countries are in Africa and Central America. We also occasionally donate to New Orleans and some countries in the Caribbean.
Awesome. So tell me about your partnership with the Ability Bikes in Ghana and the Maya Pedal in Guatemala.
So those are 2 of our partners. Maya Pedal we haven't donated to in a couple of years, but Ability Bikes we donated to in May, so we shipped them about 500 bikes this May. And Ability Bikes is a really neat organization in
Tell me about that.
Koforidua, Ghana. I think I'm pronouncing it wrong, but they
You got it.
They're basically a cooperatively owned bike shop, and they're owned by people with disabilities. So the way it works is they'll get a shipment of bikes, they repair the bikes there, and then they sell the bikes in their community. So they're providing people with transportation that's affordable, and then they also are providing people with jobs there, and specifically people with physical handicaps. And so it basically provides employment for people who would have a hard time getting a job in Ghana otherwise, but just because of stigmatization there, it can be hard to find employment. And so so that's
awesome. So not only you guys just help them out with the employment. So why do you think helping out Ghana, with the parts and helping them with employment is so important for them?
Well, I mean, it's basically we have things that we are wasting here, and so it's providing those things to other people who don't have it otherwise. And I think the other thing about Ability Bikes that's neat is that it's a bike shop, and so you can not only buy a bike there, but then you also can get your bike repaired. So it's not only providing the actual bikes, but it's also helping to boost these businesses that are a resource for anyone who has a bike in that country. Like if you got a bike from some other source, you could bring your bike there to get it fixed, and that's unusual. Those are, here we have a lot of bike shops. There are not a lot of bike shops in developing countries, so that's another.
Countries. So I mean, that's basically like a start for them. Like consider there's no big transportation for them. Bikes is a good way for the transportation, right?
Yeah. Well, so like a bike is 4 times faster than walking.
Really?
So,
Okay.
I think I might be wrong with this stat, but I think that the average woman in Africa walks about 4 miles a day to get water. I'm pretty sure that's accurate from what I read. But the point is that people walk very long distances to get water, to go to school, to go to jobs. And then also to get health care. If they need to go to a medical center, it's often not in their town. And
Really?
so if you have a bike, that's something, that distance that can take hours can just be cut down into a quarter of the time. So I think that's why it's so important, is that, bikes are useful here in Chicago for sure, but they're even more useful in these other countries.
In those other countries. For more questions, if you guys really want to ask about working bikes, you could. This is a call and show, so you could call us now at 312-738-1060 for any type of questions or comments. So another question is, why is creating a partnership with an organization that supports sustainable economic development in other countries important?
Yeah, I think a couple of the things I touched on, just basically that it's boosting a business there and providing a resource to people. So like having an actual bike shop where you can get your bike repaired is important. And I think one organization I always think of is like Heifer International, where you're not donating just a box of cereal or something that's kind of eaten and then gone. You're donating. Heifer International donates animals, and then people can raise those animals, and it can be a longer lasting resource for them.
Right.
And so I think bikes are kind of similar, where if you are able to continue to maintain a bike, it can provide you with longer lasting benefits, whether that's getting to school for a few years and then getting to your job and that sort of thing.
Awesome. So how can one person volunteer, and what do volunteers do while working at Working Bikes?
So we have 3 volunteer sessions a week, and they are Tuesday nights from 5 to 9 p.m., Wednesdays from 12 to 5 p.m., and then Saturdays from 12 to 5 p.m. And volunteers are mainly going to be working on bikes, repairing them. So just to be clear, we don't repair the bikes that we send abroad. Those we just send as is, and then they're repaired overseas. But the bikes that we donate in Chicago are repaired by our volunteers. So we donate about 1,000 bikes in Chicago every year. And those bikes go mainly to people in transitional housing programs, refugee resettlement programs, youth programs, so different schools will approach us for something. All of those bikes are repaired by volunteers who come in and don't even need to have any experience. They just will work their way up.
Really? So they work their way up within the development of the, as you were just saying about the bikes, right?
Yeah.
Working with the bikes. Okay. So how does when I really want to get tactical to it, how does the donation how does it work? What do you guys do? So they call you guys and they ask for bikes, or how exactly does it work?
So you mean our international
program? That's what I'm going back to.
Okay.
Exactly.
So so our international partners, we work with a variety of groups, and we also work with this group in Washington, D.C. that's called Bikes for the World, who does the same thing as us. And so we'll kind of just talk to them about partners that they know of as well, and we'll get emails from different organizations, and then we kind of assess, do they have the capability to store bikes for, store 500 bikes at a time? Are they able to repair them? Do they have staff and people who know how to repair bikes? That sort of thing.
Awesome. So you just what we're just talking about there. You said you guys are also shipping parts to St. Louis and Urbana, right?
So
Yeah, talk to me about that.
So we're not shipping to them, but there's an organization in St. Louis that's called the St. Louis. Oh goodness, I'm gonna forget the name. I think it's called the St. Louis Bicycle Works, and they are basically shipping about 500 bikes in about a month. We're working to finalize the date, but they are another co-op that's kind of like us, and they have enough space that they've collected these 500 bikes, and so we're just going to go and send a couple volunteers down to help them with it and to help set them up with a partner. And then Champaign-Urbana is a really neat group. It's associated with the University of Illinois, and it's called the Bike Project. They shipped a container earlier this year, and now they're going to be shipping their second container. And so again, they've got about 500 bikes, 450 bikes. And so we're sending a couple volunteers down with like 30 bikes that we're bringing down in a truck just to, pack the container as full as we can.
Right.
And then they'll load the bikes up and send them overseas. And I guess I could explain the packing process a little bit.
Of course.
So we've got a 40-foot container, and before you load it, you have to turn the bike, sort of like alternating the direction of the bikes and taking the handlebars off. Or I'm sorry, not just turning the handlebars and then taking the pedals off.
Right.
And so you'll have 3 layers of bikes that are packed into the shipping container like that. And so it's a lot of. It's just very physically demanding to be doing all of that work, prepping the bikes, and then also to physically get them in the rows and in the container. And so we have what we call shipping parties about once a month. And the shipping parties basically will have anywhere from 5 to like 20 volunteers, and they will load the bikes for 5 hours or something. So the volunteer program that I mentioned, there is working on bikes, but then there's also events that we have that volunteers can help out with, and then there's also these shipping parties that people come to, and often that's a great way to volunteer for the first time, is to just come to a shipping party and help load a container.
And can you give me some of the style of bikes that you guys run into as we were talking?
Sure. So we get every style of bikes. People donate tandems and adult tricycles and recumbent bikes, which are all kind of more odd, unusual bikes. But then we also get mountain bikes and road bikes and, hybrids. And basically the way we sort of decide which bike goes where is based on, the style of the bike and also like the level of that brand, basically. So if you have what we call a department store bike, which is like a Magna or a Huffy, these bikes that you can buy at Walmart, those bikes we don't sell because they require a lot of time to repair them, and then they aren't sold for very much money. So if you're thinking about each bike being contributing to how many bikes we can donate, that's not a good investment of time. So those bikes we tend to ship overseas. Then mountain bikes we tend to send overseas, mountain bikes of any brand, because those are the bikes that people, that the organizations we donate to want the most, because their tires are thicker. And so in places that have poorer road conditions, it's better to have a mountain bike that won't pop, or get a flat. And then that kind of works really well because in Chicago, people tend to want road bikes more often because we're pretty flat. It's easy to bike on our streets.
Correct.
We do have potholes, so that's not great with road bikes. But in general, people, the roads are fine. And so we sell road bikes more. So it kind of works out well that we don't really want to be shipping too many road bikes, and those are also the type that our partners don't really want usually. So, yeah.
So shipping bikes to all these countries, I'm pretty curious. Do a lot of them really actually know how to ride a bike? Is there a way you guys could teach them how to ride a bike? Because I understand some people, they're not used to those type of bikes, so some of them might not, be able to ride one. Is there a way you guys could teach them, provide?
We don't, because we're not the organization that's on the ground, so we don't have a staff person there or a volunteer there. But a couple of the organizations do that. So the Village Bicycle Project and I think the Bicycle Empowerment Network in South Africa, those are 2 groups that have bike education programs as part of their work. So they have these stores, but they also do a lot more than just repairing and selling bikes.
Oh, okay.
So
Awesome. So, can you talk to me about the fundraiser you guys hosted on the 14th? Like, was it successful?
Sure. Yeah, so we had our 15th anniversary fundraiser, and we've never had a large fundraiser like that before. We've had, little anniversary parties every year, but this one was bigger, and it was at Lagunitas Brewery, and basically we just had all of our staff and board members and volunteers and community supporters, so, people who helped us to have space back 15 years ago when we didn't have our own building, and people who, like Rotary clubs, who helped us to host our first bike drives. Those sorts of people were able to come out, and it was just a chance to say thank you to those people for helping us. And we're going to be donating our 50,000th bike by the end of this year, so that's like another landmark along with the 15 years. So yeah, it was a lot of fun.
And this past weekend, you Working Bikes was at the Green Living Expo, am I right?
Yes.
So, like, how do you use this? So, how do you use these to educate the public in your mission?
So we go to a lot of green festivals throughout the year. A lot of them are in the suburbs. Some of them are in the city. We went to the Chicago Green Festival at Navy Pier about a week ago or 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
And basically, it's just a chance to talk to people who are interested in the environment, because a lot of people who maybe want to host their own bike drive for us are people who are interested in the environment and sustainability. And so at a green festival, you've got all these people who are interested in those issues, and they just come and talk to us. And I don't know, it's a great way to get people to donate bikes, or even just to ride the bike machines, and then have us in their mind for when they run into somebody who does have bikes that they can donate. We also go to a lot of community festivals, like block parties, and we help out with community bike rides in our neighborhood. So we're in the 25th ward, and there are night rides that they do throughout the summer and the fall, and so we'll help like with bike marshaling, which is the person who guides them, and it's just a good way for us to sort of promote biking in our community. And
are you participating in any upcoming events that audience should be aware of?
Let's see. I think that the 15th, November 15th, we've got an Eagle Scout bike drive in Palatine. We've got an Eagle Scout bike drive in Western Springs. So those are like Boy Scouts who are doing their Eagle Scout project, and their goal is to collect bikes for us. So we can get up to like 150 bikes from those one event. That's great, because a typical event is more like 20 bikes. So those are both going on. And then we have...
going back, what do these bikes actually go to? You guys, but these bikes that you guys get go to Working Bikes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, they're bike drives. So it's like a canned food drive would be for the food pantry. We have a bike drive, so people bring bikes.
Right.
So there's those two events, and then we also have a event in Glencoe that same day, which is another bike drive or recycling collection event. It's called Recycle Your Bicycle. And we also have the shipping party that I mentioned in Champaign-Urbana. So we'll be loading the container in Champaign on Saturday the 15th.
Awesome. So one question I really want to ask you, which the last one is, what do you get out of Working Bikes? Like, what really benefits you with Working Bikes, and why?
Yeah. I've been there about a year and a half, and I think what I most enjoy is I really enjoy the shipping party days, and just seeing 500 bikes going out the door is a really nice feeling. And we have a warehouse that just really fills up with all of these bikes, and you realize that all of those bikes would be thrown away otherwise. And so that's just great to see them going somewhere else. And then I'm hoping to visit one of our partners in 2015. So I think after that I'll have even more to say to that question, because I think it'll be really nice to go at firsthand, see people who are actually using the bikes that we send. But actually, one more thing. In the meantime, we do donate locally, as I've said, and so that's something that I do get to see firsthand every single week. We have a few people who come in and are on our waiting list and get a bike, and that's great to talk to them and see what jobs they're doing. There's a lot of people who are maybe overnight stockers at like a Target store, those types of things, where they are working overnight and they get off at a bizarre time, and they can't take the bus because it doesn't work at that time, and so they need a bike to go this long distance because they can't take a bus. Or there was one gentleman who was in transitional housing who walked to go to a job interview. So I think it's that he walked from the Loop to Skokie. So
Really?
like 13 miles or so on
wow.
foot. So I think that's those types of stories is what makes it a worthwhile job for me.
Right. And it looks like we have about 1 more minute left into the show. Do you have anything else to say? Maybe you could tell us about, how to find more information about Working Bikes or where to contact your organization?
Sure. So our website's www.workingbikes.org, so .org. And then if you wanted to email info@workingbikes.org, that's the general queries email address. And if you go to the website, there's a button that says Donate Bikes, and that'll show you where to donate.
Awesome. And for those who don't know, this is Focus on Tomorrow. Focus on Tomorrow is a nonprofit organization which is located in Chicago, Illinois. You can find us at the web at www.focus-on-tomorrow.org, or you can email us at info@focus-on-tomorrow.org. And once again, Marie, thank you so much for joining us in here in Focus on Tomorrow, and we'll hope to see you soon.
Thank you.
Once again, I'm Muriel Caballero, and see you guys next week.